How have you become interested in working with shaped canvas as opposed to the traditional square stretch canvas?
About 5 years old, my parents had a photograph taken of me, and at that time it was very popular to have the photographs cut out, mounted on wood, and then painted, tinted with colored inks.
Mm-hmm.
And I always loved that photograph, and I've always taken it with me. It's here in Spain with me now. And one day I was looking at it, and I thought, what would happen if I did that with my paintings instead of having them in a rectangular square canvas, actually cut out the shape, made like a silhouette, and mounted them on wood. And then became the long adventure of figuring out how to do it, and also the extra work of cutting it out and so on. But I really like the result, and so I've been using it quite often with my work. It's usually in the larger paintings, but I also have done a whole series of very small paintings, not much bigger than the actual photograph. These are mounted on a pedestal like that original photograph of me as a child, and they can sit on the table and be like a sculptural object, which I rather like. And a curious thing happened with the paintings. When they were cut out and put on the wall, they really became a presence. They stopped being simply a painting and actually took on a certain life of their own.
All right. Your work is very eclectic. You range from painting, collage, assemblage, construction, and drawing. How does this satisfy your artistic interests?
Well, I think one of the nice things about being an artist is you can work with the things you love, and you can play with all the materials, and I think that's one of the reasons that I went into art, because I like working with paper, I like working with color, I like working with paints. And so I have the great privilege of working with something that I truly love. I do the different techniques there, but I see them as all very interrelated. The paintings are shaped very often, and collage consists of cutting out different shapes, and they all have to do with color. I like the process of making. I like constructing things. And one thing seems to lead to another, and sometimes an idea that I have is best expressed in collage, sometimes it's best expressed in a painting, sometimes it's best expressed in some sort of a sculptural piece.
What do you think about putting titles? You have titles for your pictures. Do you have a view on what sort of titles one should have, or one should put?
Well, I don't do the extreme of calling it number 1, number 2, number 3, which a lot of people do to avoid giving titles. I give a very simple title to my work. I title it number 9, or Paseo, or Aunt Mary, or something relating to the painting, but a very brief, it may be a reference for me too, so I know which painting it is and what I'm referring to. I don't like the tendency to give these very elaborate, complex titles to paintings, which I sometimes think is a way of trying to add some kind of importance to the work or give it more meaning than actually is there.
Right. Quotations. You're interested in quotations. How do you get these quotations? Do they come to you, or do you look for them?
Actually, I collect quotations. I always have. I don't hang them on the walls of my house or embroider them onto pillows or anything like that. But when I come across a well-spoken phrase or a quotation that somehow says something that means something to me or is related to how I think about my work, I will save it. I'll write it down on scraps of paper. I don't have any system. I don't have it all cataloged and on the computer or something. But I'll write it down on a scrap of paper. I'll tuck it away. And then when there's an exhibition or I have to print up something, I very often incorporate one of these quotations. It's just kind of a little extra information for the viewer, which might help them to come closer to what I'm doing.
Have you had any blocks or obstacles that you've had to overcome when you're working?
Other than inertia, I think which is a problem for all artists, that there's nobody there with a time clock seeing that you've gotten to the studio on time and that you're actually putting in 8 hours a day. I do get black very often on paintings. The painting, one of the paintings I'm working on right now, I'm having a terrible time with the faces because it's a very bad photograph. It's a lovely pose and the composition is wonderful, but it's a very old black and white photograph, and it was taken while people were moving, and it's very hard for me to see clearly the faces to paint them, because I'm actually painting the photograph. I don't use photographs as an aid to painting. I actually want to duplicate what the camera has seen when I'm working with the design, and so I want to capture the camera's vision and not my own. And if the photograph is very tiny or very blurred, very often it's a great problem for me to see. And until I can see it well enough to recreate it on the canvas, I sometimes do block, and I have to leave it for a while and come back. I think I am a very detailed artist. I like detail. And it is a bit of an obsession, I think, to do that. I mean, I could do abstract paintings or gestural art, and I've actually done that in art school and so on, but it just never satisfied me. I seem to get some sort of a strange satisfaction from doing these very meticulous, detailed constructions and paintings, and sort of set a standard for myself on that. And it's part of my personality, I guess.
Right. Okay.
Being a Virgo.